I found an unfamiliar clothing in her suitcase that scared me. Part 1. Hi everyone, welcome back to another Reddit cheating story. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you won't miss another cheating story goes live. I am a sod because of a medical condition. I, 34M, have been married to my wife, 33F, for 7 years with a son, 6. He will be starting school soon. My wife and I have had a nice life together. We have sex 1 to 2 times a week sometimes, more depending if my affliction is acting up. It was decided I would be a sod when I started to miss work when my health issues started about 3 years ago. My wife is traveling for work. She does not travel much but does on rare occasions. This trip is planned as she has a conference and is going to have meetings at another of her company's locations for training purposes. So she was packing her suitcase. She had it opened on our bed putting her things in. I was helping. Using a mental checklist we were checking off the list so she did not forget anything. Last minute I said that I did the laundry and her PJs were clean in the laundry room. She went off to get them. In the meantime, I thought I would slip a love note from myself and one from our son into the bottom of the suitcase telling her how much we love her and will miss her. As I pulled up the clothes I noticed the bottom layer is a set of lingerie I have never seen. She usually does not wear lingerie. I am beyond hurt. I slip the notes in when I hear her coming back. My mind is going 100 miles per hour. My worst fear is happening. Because of my affliction I have felt less than a man and that she would leave me. I stay silent. We go to bed. We have sex. She could tell that I was off. I just said my health issue was the problem. This has been the case in the past. We go to sleep. The next day I took her to work. She was taking an afternoon flight so we drove her to work. Then we came back later and drove her to the airport. During the day, my stomach was in knots. I was going to pull the lingerie out of the suitcase. That really would not stop her from cheating. So I went to the store and bought a box of condoms. I put them on top of the lingerie with a note for her not to bring me anything home. So she has been gone 2 nights. We talked the first night after she arrived. The next night she called at my son's bedtime. I have a special ringtone for her. So, when her call came in I was reading to my son who was in bed. I gave him the phone to answer. She talked with him a few minutes to wish him good night. He then handed me the phone. She had disconnected. I guess she found my notes. Updates: we both come from a small suburban town. We both grew up in fairly conservative families. Our families have known each other for years. We both went to a Christian school. Then on to Christian college. We were high school sweethearts and each other's firsts. We did have sex in college but only with each other, if that means anything. We both have admitted to kissing someone else but no more than that. We talked on the phone after her good night to our son. I said I would call back at 9 p.m. That is if you are not busy. I know it was a smart aleck move. She did not answer so I repeated that I would call her at 9. 9 o'clock comes around and I call and she is crying and blubbering. I wait. Then as she calmed down I told her that we needed to talk this out. For now, I need to know what she is thinking. What have I done to make her want to cheat? How long has she been cheating? Who is it with? So this is some of what she told me. I listened and did not interrupt unless she went silent. The wife was promoted to a position that would require her to travel occasionally, essentially for training. The company always puts their people up in a nice hotel near the training. We have been to hotels ourselves but always the more economy class. The hotel she has stayed in had restaurants and a bar. In 2019 she went to her first training requiring 2 overnights. She was with a couple others attending the training. She had the names of the people attending and they all agreed to meet up for dinner the first night. They ate then went to the bar. I imagine she was overwhelmed because we are not bars or club people. She says she was half listening to the conversation and watching everything. A woman walks into the bar dressed in a business suit. She has a lanyard around her neck. She could see it was an ID of sorts as she had one also but they were different companies. The woman sat at the bar chatting with the bartender. He got busy so she was by herself. About 5 minutes later a man walked over to get a drink and started a conversation. He got his drink and offered to buy her another. They talked for about 15 minutes, got another drink and moved to a table. Another drink comes and they take the drinks and walk out of the bar together. My wife thought I just saw a pickup that will be an ONS. The next night after training and dinner, the group headed to the bar. In walks the woman, dressed businesslike. This time she catches the ID from a large well-known company. The woman gets a drink and heads to a table as the bartender is too busy to talk. In a little while a different man than from the night before leaves his table and approaches her. She invites him to sit down. They have a couple drinks and the same as the night before, they head out together. My wife mentioned it to the group. One of the more veteran employees told her that while it's not common for pickups, it's not uncommon either. There is the anonymity of an ONS between two adults that are lonely and have little chance of being caught. This caught her interest, which then turned into fantasy. She had 3 or 4 more training sessions that year. On some nights she saw hookups, on others she did not. 2020 came and travel was stopped. But her fantasies did not. When we had sex, she admitted thinking she was having a ONS. To be honest, we are not good at expressing what we want sexually, so she kept this just in her head. However, she had convinced herself she could have sex with someone else and would be able to separate the emotional from the physical. In April of this year, they started to travel again. She traveled 2 nights. This time there were 2 others with her. Same thing, dinner then to the bar. They had drinks but she saw no action. She had brought the lingerie. It's actually a one-piece that covers her breasts and torso. It's black and lacy. Now that I am writing this, I forget what she called it. She left the bar with her coworkers, then circled back thinking she would get another drink and see if anything happens. She struck out both nights. In June, she had another training, for just 1 night. This time she wore the lingerie beneath her clothes. She went to the bar. She was nursing her wine when a man that was at the bar brought over another glass and asked to sit down. They talked a bit. She was getting panicky as it was building up. He finally gets to, "Why don't we take these drinks upstairs?" She says she didn't say anything, at first, then waggled her ring finger at him stating she was married. He immediately wagged his hand saying, "If you don't tell, I won't." She refused him. They continued to talk. Eventually, he excused himself to go to the restroom. She left and went to her room. She said she was sweating and almost hyperventilating. She swears nothing happened. So this week rolls around. She has training and there happens to be a conference in town for her field. She can get additional educational credits, so she signs up. The conference is in another hotel but within walking distance, as there are like 6 hotels all along this road near the airport. She does her training. As she is going to get dressed up, she discovers our notes and the condoms. She made the call to our son but could not face me, so she hung up. She claims the conference was terrible as she could not concentrate. In fact, she thought she would be so sick she went back to her room and did not attend the afternoon session. So my son and I are waiting for her flight. We are sitting at baggage claim. Him on his iPad watching a movie and me typing this up. I will see if her story holds true as we talk tonight and through the weekend. I told her I was headed to my parents for the weekend, leaving her home alone, but decided to drop my son off instead so we could talk. Update 2, when we picked her up at the airport, my son ran to her and gave her hugs. I leaned in for a family hug as she was holding my son. I gave her a kiss. She whispered in my ear how sorry she was. I just nodded and said, "We will talk tonight." I drove us home. We went in as my son had drawn welcome home pictures. My son and I left shortly after to my parents. I left my wife home to unpack and to mentally prepare for our talk. When I got home, she was sitting on the couch waiting. I asked that she move to our dining table. I wanted to put something physical between us. I had printed out the call logs for her phone. I started out on how gutted I am feeling and that I accept that our marriage was done. She started crying. I waited until she stopped. I did not want crying to deflect my questions and would wait every time she cried. I asked that she be completely honest. I mentioned that if I felt her answers were evasive, I would demand her to take a lie detector. She agreed to be forthcoming as she wanted our marriage. I had her tell me the story again. Then I asked questions. I challenged her on the timelines. I asked questions in different order of her timeline, then would circle back to the same question. There are more to come. Find out the update of this story, check our channel or the description. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for any future cheating stories.